Andrea Adelson, ESPN.com. Jimbo, you mentioned how the program has grown. You had some tough losses early on as a head coach. Where do you feel you have grown the most in your in-game coaching and the way you make adjustments for the second half?
Well, I think as the game goes on, I think anytime you do something more consistently, you're able to learn yourself as much as you are your kids. And I think, but also making sure you're tuned into your kids, and I think doing a really good job in the offseason is taken to create a culture for them to understand where I come from and me to understand where they come from. It's all part of that. And I think those first 39 games has allowed the adjustments and things we've been able to do in the last 29.
Mike Scout from KZI in Eugene. Mark Helfrich talked earlier about how his staff needs to approach recruiting. He said, you don't have to go very far, more than a couple hours, to find great talent down in the Tallahassee and Florida area.
Miami's 9 hours.
What could you say about the way that Oregon recruits, that they're able to sustain a program at such a high level, and they have guys coming in from as far away as Ohio, down into Texas, down in the far reaches of the country?
Well, it is true. We have a great base in the state of Florida and Georgia, but we reach out also to D.C., California, Texas. We're all over the country, too, with a national brand name. But I think they've been in it because they're in a state that doesn't have a large number of high school players or top recruits. But they've done it with facilities, money, presentation, uniforms. They've created, what you have to create is a niche. And if people are going to come from long distances to come to university, why are they coming there? There's something that you have that someone else, if you're bypassing all these places, could it be facilities? Could it be the uniforms? Now, they also win a lot of football games. I understand something. The first and foremost thing in recruiting is guys want to go somewhere they can be successful, get a great education, be around good people, and have an opportunity to play in the league. That's what players want to do, and they've been able to do it. We've been able to do it. So, I mean, it's quite remarkable what they have been able to do. But they created that niche, and they've run with it.
Question from Pat.
Jimbo, Pat 40 from Yahoo Sports. You're right here. I was wondering when you started bringing prepared notes to your press conferences and why.
Always have. Always have. I always bring reminders and things, and if you have an open book test, why would not use the open book? Daggone. I don't claim to be no 36 ACT now.
Okay, we have another question on the back left.
Hey, Jimbo. Bruce Feldman from Fox Sports. You've been around a bunch of quarterbacks who've gone on to the NFL. Beyond just a lot of film study, can you, kind of elaborate on Jameis's football smarts and maybe him being wired a little differently than other guys you've had?
I don't know if he's wired, what he sees. He can process what the great ones see. I mean, he sees angles. He anticipates. He has, first of all, he's an unbelievable competitor, and he's unbelievably tough. I mean, he'll stand there and take a shot right in the mouth and don't care. 310-pound guy running at him, he's going to stand there and take a shot because if it makes his team be successful, he's willing to do that. He's willing to sacrifice his body, his mind, everything for the team. And then his gifts of anticipation, not just arm talent, but hand talent. His ability to adjust the ball. Like the great pitchers. They can throw it 98 and put it on the black. They can throw it 91. They can throw it 84. The placement, the understanding, sees angles, and just the game itself makes sense. And like I say, I don't know if I've ever been around a guy who, when he comes off, I've quit questioning what he does on the field or why he does it. Even when he does it wrong, he can come off and tell you exactly what he saw, what happened, and why it happened. I'll bet at a 98% rate when he comes off, and he can process so much. His intelligence level is off the charts. In the amount of information he can not only process but retain.
Hey, Coach. Coach Asher Wellman, WCTV. Just all week long, your players been asked what it's like to finally be an underdog. And just for you to go through talking to your players this week, if you're going to use that as motivation or what you're going to say to them this week.
We don't ever look at ourselves as an underdog. I've never walked on the field and thought I was an underdog. Our team has never walked on the field and thought it was an underdog. And that does not motivate. I mean, you look at I never knew we were a favorite. All those other games, I don't look at that. We look at ourselves as we got to go play well. We have a great opponent, and if we play well, we'll have success. And we don't really look at those things. I mean, and I know that may sound cliche, or you think we don't. We just play and control what we can control.
Question from Dennis.
Jimbo, Dennis.cbssports.com. Excuse me if you've been asked this before, but how do you prepare for a possible championship game while you're getting ready for this game? Do you have GAs looking at
Oh, yeah. Well, you already have Ohio State and Alabama broken down, because when you get back, you got to hit the ground running. You have to prepare for that. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And we'll have some great film to study in the offseason. But if it does, you got to hit the ground running with all your breakdowns and all those things ready to go. And we've broken both teams down, and that's why you have to have that support staff around and to get ready to roll.
Another question up on the right.
Coach Mac Engel, Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Of all the things you've heard said and written about Jameis, what's the biggest misperceptions that you think people have about him?
That he's selfish, that he's a bad guy. He's an unbelievably kind-hearted person. I had a guy the other day. He had a little house in the neighborhood where he lived. Him and a couple people lived, and the neighborhood kids, the Saturday before we were reporting on Sunday, the day of the Heisman, matter of fact, because he finished up an exam on Friday night, and we had practice on Sunday, so he had that one off day. He spent it for an hour and a half or 2 hours playing backyard football with about 12 kids in the neighborhood. I mean, the guy is such a kind-hearted people guy. He loves people. He loves to be around people, not from a standpoint of, I'm Jameis Winston. He generally likes people. He's fun to be around. He's genuine. He's honest. He's just a good guy. He really is.
Another question on the right.
Chuck Carlton, Dallas Morning News. Jimbo, you've been through an awful lot of close games, much more so than the year before. In terms of, does that breed any special confidence that if you're in that tight situation late in the game,
I think anytime you ever go through a situation, because every coach wants, well, if we're behind, this is what we're going to do. If we're in this situation, this is what we're going to do. Well, when you do it, you say, man, we can do this. And I think it's just like, saying, can we win big? And we won big before. Can we win an ACC championship? Can we win it? I mean, anytime you go through a situation and you have success, it definitely breeds confidence, especially if you go back and study why you do it and understand why you were successful, the mindset you had, so you can repeat it. Because I think that's a lot of things that we do in sports, and athletes are like that. Sometimes you ask a guy, why'd you have success? I don't know, I just played good. Well, man, let's go back and think why you played well. How did you prepare? How did you think? How did you sleep? How did you eat? How much film did you watch that week? And you try to get guys to repeat performance, because that's what athletics is about, consistency. And I think anytime you get in those situations, study why you had success, remember the mindset, remember the temperament, and then try to duplicate it if you have to.
We have a question from the right.
Jimbo, Jeff Fischel from the ACC Digital Network. Now you've spent 3 weeks looking at Oregon on tape, prepping for them. Obviously, they have a fantastic quarterback, but what else? What are the other couple of things that really impressed you most?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I say this. I mean, Mariota is Mariota. I mean, Marcus is tremendous. One of the best college football players ever. I mean, the guy's tremendous, but they have a great offensive line. They're very dynamic in the backfield. They have great speed outside. On defense, those ends and defensive outbackers are long, 6'6", 6'7" guys, very physical. Nose guards, very physical. The backers play downhill very good as far as being able to take on the run. They read very well, get back and pass. The corners can run. There's very few holes and weaknesses. Special teams, they cover because they're so athletic and can run. I mean, they're a complete football team. I mean, they really are. And people say, what are you going to do to have success? You're going to have to play well in all three phases for 60 minutes. I mean, that's going to be the key, because they do not beat themselves. They take care of the ball. And they're a very good, very well-coached football team.
Yeah, Coach Mike Bianchi from the Orlando Sentinel. You speak so highly of Jameis and all your other players. Does it bother you that you guys have this, quote, most hated team in college football label? And also, the situation yesterday at practice with Peyton, could that help change perceptions?
We're going to do what we do every day. And perception, we can't help what people think of us. We just keep doing what we do. We know how we do it. We believe in our system. We believe we have better kids than we have players. I've said that all along. And when you look at facts of things and go to the facts and not at people's opinions and what we want, agendas that we want to push, it ought to change, because we have tremendous kids. But, you can't change how people do. You just got to keep doing things right. And over time, people will see that you do the right things and you stand up for the right things. You can't force, when you try to force someone to think a way, like I said, or it's like coaching to me. If I try to be somebody I'm not, it doesn't work. We're going to continue to do things the right way, the Florida State way, and we believe that's definitely the right way, and be good people, and time we'll see.
Another question from the back left.
Hey, Jimbo, Bruce Feldman. The 4 coaches in the playoffs, you, obviously the other 2 guys in the Sugar Bowl, won national championships. Mark taking over a program as a first-time head coach, something similar to what you've had to do on a big stage at a major program. What impresses you most about what he has done there with the transition?
That, Mark seems to be himself too. I don't see him trying to be Chip Kelly or Mike Bellotti or anybody else. I see him, being Mark. And he was always a tremendously successful coach. And I think that's why he's probably having success, because he is being himself. But to be able to keep that consistency and block it out and, take them to, keep pushing the heights and pushing them toward their first national championship. And it's been tremendous what he's been able to do. But I see Mark just being Mark. I see him being comfortable, as I say, comfortable in his own skin.